Hey everybody, happy International Tabletop Gaming Day. And today we're going to be looking at a new game that I've just gotten into and that seems to be getting pretty popular. And that is Star Wars Armada, a game of tactical fleet combat. So I'm just going to do kind of an overview of the components and the rules, and my initial impressions. So let's check it out. Okay, so as you can see, there are a lot of components here. First you got the Rebel fleet. Lots of X-Wings, Carillion Corvette, Nebulon B frigate. And you've got the Imperial fleet, which consists of a Star Destroyer, Victory class, smaller Star Destroyer, and a bunch of TIE fighters. Got the capital ship cards, starfighter cards. These are for movement and range finding. Dice, unfortunately custom dice, which seems to be a Fantasy Flight thing. They like you to buy their dice instead of being able to use your own. It's kind of annoying. Command markers, speed markers, upgrade and damage cards, and lots of tokens, and then some asteroids and debris and whatnot. So I'll set up a quick little game here and give you a run through the rules. Okay, so I've got a small game set up here on a very small space. I think this is probably much smaller than it's actually supposed to be, and way smaller than I would ever use. But this is not a table I would normally use for a game like this. It just happens to be black, and I wanted it to be black. So over here you've got the Empire. And you've got the Star Destroyer card here. You can see this is its speed. If you set it at speed 1, you can move up to speed 1 on here, and you can click this once, and I will explain that in a moment. And these are its shields and weaponry. The numbers indicate its shield strength on each side of its hull, and the little colored diamonds there represent its weapons on each side of its hull. So it's got the most weapons located on the front. So you definitely want to keep this facing your opponent. And I just gave it one upgrade card because this is not a balanced force at all. Normally the Star Destroyer would probably have a lot more upgrade cards on it, but I just gave it one because I'm in a hurry. This is a Commander Wolf Yularen, and I'll explain him in a moment. And this is your TIE Fighter squadrons. This represents all your squadrons, unless you use a named squadron like Hell Runner here, which I also threw in there. So I have 5 normal TIE Fighter squadrons and Hell Runner. And then these are everything that go with your ship. The Star Destroyer gets 3 of these command dials and 1 speed dial, and these, which I will also explain in a moment. And we've got the Rebels. Carillion Corvette, which you can see is much faster than the Star Destroyer. This is the hull rating. If you manage to get through their shields, that's how many damage they can take before they're destroyed. This is what they roll against squadrons. And it's got a much slower shield rating and much less weaponry. I also gave it an engineering team as an upgrade. And you've got the Nebulon B frigate. And its corresponding stuff. X-Wing squadrons. And Luke. So now let's talk about movement. Movement is probably one of the coolest things about this game. You can see this thing bends at different points. That corresponds with your speed. I have the Star Destroyer set at speed 2, which is its maximum speed. At speed 2, it cannot click the first doohickey there. It can't click this, but it can click this. So it can't begin to turn until it gets this far. At speed 1, I would be able to click this one. So the Star Destroyer feels like a huge lumbering hunk of steel in space. It's really cool. I should probably give it shields in the front. There we go. So, because it's set on speed 2, it can move up to the second. So, you line it up there, and then you move it up here. I'm not turning it because it's such a small space. If I start to turn it, I'm probably going to end up going off the table pretty quickly. Alright. But I will turn the Corvette, which we'll set that at speed 4 if I can turn this thing with one hand, which I'm not sure I can. Oh yes, I can. Okay. Maybe. Speed 4, yes. Alright, so at speed 4, this little Corvette can make all kinds of turns. So let's try to outmaneuver the Star Destroyer here. So it can't click the first one, but it can click the second one, this one, and this one twice. So it could do something like that. Well, actually it couldn't, because you can't overlap. You can't move so that you overlap the movement thing. You'd have to end on this side. So I could do something like that, but it would have to be over here. And then I would end my movement there. Which didn't really accomplish much, except that I believe that now put me in range of, like, all the guns on the Star Destroyer. Yeah. Yep. That was a bad move. Okay, now we're being attacked by a giant space monster. So that's movement, and movement is really cool. The other thing that makes movement pretty cool is that you can't just change your speed whenever you want. And you have to move up to your speed, unless you're going to collide with something. Then you do in fact collide with it, and you both take damage, but you don't continue moving. You stop right up in front of it. So you would stop right in front of the Star Destroyer, and both of you would take a point of damage. So if you really wanted to, I suppose you could, if your ship was almost destroyed and the other ship was almost destroyed, I suppose you could just ram it. But it doesn't do a whole lot of damage, which is kind of unfortunate. I might change that. I might do a house roll where if you're moving up to your maximum speed and you ram something, it does more damage. Hi, dog. No, don't jump. Good boy. Excuse you. What was that? He just ate a dental treat. What was I talking about? Miles, you're always distracting me. You and your cute face. Oh, I'm sorry. I won't ever compliment you again. Shh. Anyway. Oh yeah, speed. You can't just stop moving. You can't just slow down. You have to use the command dials to slow down. As you can see, you have engineering, you have concentrated fire, you have squadron, and you have movement. If you set it to movement, that's when you can adjust your speed by only 1 point. But for ships that have multiple command tokens, which as you can see, you have these dials based on your command rating. So this has 2, so it has 2 command dials. You have to set these in advance. The Star Destroyer has 3. So the Star Destroyer can take a really long time to slow down. If you don't set these in enough time, this speed could end up at the bottom of your stack, and you might not be able to adjust your speed for quite a while. And you could end up just careening all over the battlefield, running into everything. As for the rest of these little doohickeys, Squadron allows you to activate squadrons within range of you before you would normally do so. Engineering lets you make some repairs, and Concentrated Fire allows you to roll an extra die of some sort of die that you already have to roll, I believe. Alright, so I think the last thing we really have to talk about is combat and squadron movement. Squadron movement's pretty much the same, except you don't use the same movement tool. You use this thing. So the TIE Fighter, the X-Wings, I mean, can move 3. So they would move up to here on this. And they have to move in a straight line, but they can move any direction, but it has to be in a straight line. And then you use the range, same as you do with everything else, which I will explain in just a moment. Alright, so attacking. That moment is now. So attacking. Obviously the Star Destroyer is going to attack this Corvette, because it was dumb and it moved right up into its line of fire, which I think it was actually over here. Sorry about that. I think it was actually over there. Alright, so it can fire. We're just going to fire from the front, because trust me, I think that's going to be enough. Oh, it doesn't have its shield set up either. It has 2 shields in the front. Yeah, I think that's going to be enough. We're going to fire all our forward weapons at the front of this Corvette. And we can definitely reach that, and I'll show you why. Alright, so you can see that the Victory Star Destroyer has 3 black and 3 red that it can roll from the front. You line this up, and it shows you which dice you can roll from what range. So from close range, where I am right now, I can roll all 3. Longer range, only blue and red, and long range, only red. So I can roll 6 die, 3 red, 3 black, and the different colored die are slightly different. Not a whole lot, but they are slightly different. Okay, so it wasn't quite as devastating as I was expecting. Rolled 2 hits. These are hits. Another hit there. Another hit there. And 2 criticals. Criticals are also damage, but they have special bonus damage. So that's 4, 5, 6 damage. That would destroy its shields and its hull, and it would be destroyed. Because that's what happens when you get in close range of a Star Destroyer. And that's pretty much how combat works. Now let's say this hadn't been destroyed and it reverted back to being the Corvette's turn. It would roll, as you can see, it would roll 2 red and 1 blue. Oh, good. I was going to discuss those in a moment. It rolled 1 hit. So you take the shields down by 1. And then it rolled 2 accuracy, I believe those are called. Whatever they're called, they let you flip over a number of these. So it rolled 2, so you'd be able to flip over 2 of these. These are defense tokens. They allow you to outmaneuver damage or redirect it to a different part of your ship. Let's say your shields are really weak in the front here. You can redirect that damage to another portion of your shields. I forget what all the symbols actually mean. I believe that's the redirect. And I think that's outmaneuver, but I don't remember what the rest of them are, unfortunately, off the top of my head. So I would get to flip over 2 of those, and the Star Destroyer would have to take the damage in the front, unless this does something, which I can't remember what it does. I'm really bad at explaining rules, just so you know. So, that's the rules of Star Wars Armada, in a very, very small nutshell. My initial thoughts on this game, I absolutely love it. I've been waiting for a game like this. Not that there haven't been good fleet combat games before, but I've been waiting for one that was for a franchise that I was really passionate about, like Star Wars. So this is great. This is what I've been looking for, what I've been waiting for. I love that the models, except for the fighters, come painted. As you can see, these don't. But I probably will paint them because it's what I do. But I don't really have time to paint these big ships, and I don't know if I trust myself to paint them anyway. That's a lot of detail. Look at that thing. That's a lot of detail. Yeah. So I love that they're pre-painted. They're great detail. They look great. The biggest downside is the initial investment. The retail price of this starter box is $100, which I did not pay, and I highly recommend you do not pay because that is overpriced for what you get here. You get just enough to play a very small game, and also just enough to leave you thinking, wow, this was fun, but it would be so much more fun if I had 5 times this many ships, or even 2 more ships. Really. I mean, there's just not very much variety that you can do with the starter set, and the first wave of expansions hasn't even released yet, so there is nothing more you can do other than buy another starter set, which $100. Miniature Market. Use Miniature Market for everything. Miniature Market is amazing. I would not be a tabletop gamer if it were not for Miniature Market. It was only $70 on Miniature Market, which is much more reasonable. Other than that, the components are great, everything looks great, the gameplay is great, combat's awesome, movement is amazing, the rules are well written. I really only had to read through them once before my first playthrough. I've forgotten some things now. Obviously, I should have looked back over them before I did this, but I still have a basic understanding of the game. And I didn't touch on everything. There's a lot of things I didn't mention, but I just went over the basics. Yeah, it's pretty great, and there's a bunch of new ships announced. There's the full-size Star Destroyers coming. A lot of bigger Rebel ships. These are very small. The ones you get here are very small, very fragile Rebel ships. They die pretty quickly. There's some bigger ships coming. So it's a great game, and I'm really looking forward to getting some big fleets amassed. And you should check it out. So thanks for watching. This is probably going to be a really long video, but thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great tabletop gaming day. Play something on a tabletop. Whatever it may be. Cheers.